Culture on Tap. We are a podcast that is about bridging the cultural gap, one conversation at a time. We have myself, Xavier Bright, Dale Young, Range Armantar, and for one last week, for now, we have Eric Hudson with us. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share on anywhere you listen to or watch podcasts. Make sure you hit the bell so that you get notifications whenever we have new content coming out so that you can tap in with us. So, Dale, we have another fun fact with Range.
We have a fun fact with Range. And so today's a little different. Today is a betting kind of thing. No actual money involved, but
Darn.
I'm gonna ask a question to Eric, Xavier, and myself, and we're gonna guess how many Range could get right. And then you're gonna talk after that. How many people can Range get right in the Rat Pack?
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go with 0.
I'm actually gonna divide that by 0 and say my answer is 0.
I am gonna have faith in my brother and say that he's gonna get one right. One person right.
So there's going to have to be some explanation to this. First, somebody's going to have to let me know what the Rat Pack is.
The name is
And
says it all.
being that you said they have names, I assume that it's people and not rats. So
I mean, Master Splinter has a name. Ratatouille. No, what is his name?
no,
What is his actual name? Ratatouille.
Oh, I don't even remember.
I don't remember. But yeah, so
Remy. There it
Remy,
is.
yeah, is Remy part of the Rat Pack? Don't.
Don't
let that
fool you.
No.
So I feel like
So-
we can give him a little. I think we can give him a little context.
Well, you did. You said, can he name one of the members? Which insinuates there's more than one
There's more than one.
of the Rat Pack.
Rat
There you
Pack.
go.
So yeah,
I feel like there's a lot of talking
there's a
and a lot of nothing coming out.
yeah. I don't have anything. I've never heard of a Rat Pack.
We
I
win.
don't know what that means.
We win.
So now you can explain.
What would you think the Rat Pack is?
Well, initially a pack of rats.
Let me ask. How about that? Now we can give some clues.
Yeah.
Fly me to the moon.
Sounds like a song.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Never heard it.
So the Rat Pack is a group of musicians.
Cool.
So can you? Well, let's ask this question. So I have a follow-up question. Let's name the members of. There's 5, correct?
I believe that's right.
Mhm.
5. Let's name the members of the Rat Pack, and let's guess now how many members of the Rat Pack Range is actually heard of.
I'd say 1.
Frank Sinatra.
I have heard of him.
Okay,
There we
that's
go.
the one. That's the one. Dean Martin.
Dean Martin.
No,
Sammy Davis Jr.,
that's also negative.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Lawford,
That's made up.
You might as well say Peter Quill.
and Joey
Peter Pan.
Joey Bishop.
No.
So 1.
See? Yep.
Just so we're clear,
Right again.
that song Eric sang, that would have been old Frankie.
That's
Old
Frank
Blue
Sinatra.
Eyes.
Old Blue Eyes.
Blue eyes. Yep. Nope. No idea.
Ah,
All right.
Well,
So there you go, where we went.
that's beautiful and sad all at the same time. Yeah. But today, we have a little bit of a more, as my mom would say, weighty conversation. We're going to talk about law enforcement. We've talked about different issues, whether it be popular culture things that have gone on with school shootings and things of that nature. But we have the unique perspective of not just being talking heads, but having someone who knows both sides of the civilian side, but also the law enforcement side. So we just wanted to pick your brain on this topic that's going on. So I think first and foremost, would you just kind of give your credentials of you being in law enforcement, how many years, what you did, and things of that nature?
Yeah. So I was a police officer in the Harris County area for I'll say over 10 years. And it's funny because I feel like the police side coming out of me now because for so many years I wasn't allowed to have, when I went to the police department, I wasn't allowed to have a Facebook.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't live in the city that I worked in. And the reasons, let me clarify, like the Facebook, I had a Facebook account that was tied to my undercover work that I did. But when I was doing work, there were also people that were doing work to find out who I was.
Right.
So I had to do the best I could to protect my family, protect my, and even though I don't even live in Houston anymore, I still feel that little bit of, not sharing too much information when it comes to my personal life, which is so funny and so weird because, but the part of the reason I feel protected is because I know this podcast is growing and you never know who's going to get on it. And I have no doubt this is probably going to go viral, based on some of Range's answers, like the Rat Pack and stuff like that. This is probably going to go worldwide. So people could see my face and be like, hey,
I remember him.
I'm not even going to say where I live. You have to go. You have to go back and watch other episodes to find out where I live now. No, but it's no. I did a long stint, and I got to do I did patrol. I was a patrol officer, and I was had the privilege of being a hostage negotiator on the SWAT team. I did undercover, and I was with a team called the Direct Action Response Team. And basically what that means is we were undercover. We were slated for doing pretty much everything when it came to undercover work, which also included
Y'all known as DART?
DART, yeah.
Okay, I was doing
You like that? Look
I was
at you.
doing the
You're putting acronyms together.
Yeah.
Range acronyms are letters that
Yes, he did.
Touche.
This is my fourth week, right? I'm kind of learning. No, but I was with DART, Direct Action Response Team, and part of our jobs would also to go find, like let's say we're looking for murder suspects like that. So my job was to get information that we had, set up surveillance, and find them, follow them, see what else they're doing.
Yeah.
Ultimately, issue warrants and go after them for the arrest. For murder suspects, robbery suspects, pretty much anything. So, so I was fortunate. I've got to do a whole lot of stuff within the umbrella of the police department. I was also an advanced interrogator. So I have the police department spent a lot of money on me. They invested a lot in me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And you're
cool.
You're still using those tools.
I still use my Jedi mind tricks every once in a while.
Yes. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
In your time, in law enforcement, were there instances where when you were accused of racial profiling, police brutality, police misconduct, or anything like that, were you ever accused? Because it seems like, now we just kind of blanket statement, law enforcement, and it's just like everybody's bad. So just kind of, were you ever accused?
Me personally, no, we actually, what they call, we have what's called our file and our folders. I was never accused, except for, and it wasn't anything like, I had definitely been involved in a shooting. And the guy that I ended up shooting he got 28 years for trying to kill a police officer. And I ended up shooting him, but in court, of course he got the 28 years, but the defense tried to paint it as a bad shooting. And it wasn't there was no, he and I were of the same ethnicity. Yeah, so there was there was really no issue there, I would say,
Right,
because he
right.
was of the same. But they try to paint it as a bad shooting, and they try to sue the city civilly, saying that the police department was trying to cover up a shooting. But when they pulled my sleeve, they saw an impeccable record. I had actually had all these awards for the work that I had done in all these accolades within the police department, and not a single complaint against me. And where I said that's important is because my stuff held up in court, and it actually saved the police department a ton of money, because the police department didn't have to settle anything. They didn't get anything out of it, and ultimately their client is doing time in prison for trying to kill a police officer.
Right, and that's a very tangible picture of someone being above reproach.
Yeah,
To where-
absolutely.
Nobody can bring a charge against you because of your track record,
Right.
showing or holding up.
But I will say this is that, and I don't know, I don't want to jump ahead, but are those things going on? And did I see it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
You saw it firsthand.
I saw it firsthand. Yeah, I saw it. And one of the things, and once I had established myself and who I was, I had the privilege of getting to go to a specialized division, which was the DART, Direct Action Response Team. And to get on a team like that, you have to be above reproach. You have to come in. They're only going to take. And I don't like to brag about myself, but they take the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Lots of competitions to get in these divisions, because the department is also releasing that line a little bit more. They're giving you a lot more leadway and saying, we trust you. We trust that you're going to do the right thing.
Right.
Having said that, when people came to our department, when they came to our unit, if we're taking on somebody else, we as a unit had the ability to speak into who actually came into our unit, because we know, like, there's people that would put into our unit that I know who had bad reputations for doing not the right thing. So we actually had the ability to speak into that, say no, because we loved, number one, we loved our weekends off. We loved all the privileges that came with being in that unit. And we were not about a lot to let somebody jeopardize that. But also, we were people of integrity that just, at the end of the day, we just wanted to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it would work itself out. So, there are people that were, there are definitely some bad apples out there for sure.
So it really seems as though, first off, it seems as though the police and civilian relationship has always kind of been rocky.
Yeah.
To keep it,
It's real.
But it seemed to have picked up heavily with social media, but also I think it's 2012 with Trayvon Martin, and it just seems to just keep building momentum in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And you have had, you were law enforcement then, and now you're not, but what has been your perspective of everything going on? I would say, namely, over the course of the past, 5 to 7 years, it seems to be like at the height of everything. But what has been your perspective of everything going on?
It's funny, Xavier, is that towards the very end of my career, was when the cameras that police officers now wear, pretty much most agencies didn't wear any of that. That was that wasn't a thing. But my unit, we all personally invested in our own cameras for two purposes. Because number one, to protect ourselves. Yeah. Because if you're always doing the right thing, you don't care what you're recording.
Right.
And we wanted to see what our tactics were going inside of a place, what we're missing. We wanted to make sure everything was covered. But we also know that there are people out there that were going to make false accusations against us.
Yeah,
and if we're not doing the right thing, or if we're doing the right thing, we have nothing to hide.
Right.
Nothing to worry about whatsoever. So my unit started, and we actually took on some criticism from other officers that thought we were ridiculous for doing this. So we actually started wearing on our tac vests. We had these cameras that would mount up on our shoulders, so we had a view of what our eyes were seeing or going in there. And so, yeah, we were doing that before that was anything. So, but I know that there's a lot of situations out there. First of all, it's very, very tough being a police officer. And I think that it's tough for agencies that are hiring new people because it's hard to know exactly who you're hiring. And unfortunately, some of the stuff doesn't come out until you're in the heat of the moment to where you truly see somebody's colors of how they're actually going to respond in a very, very heated situation.
Yeah.
I am totally for the cameras. I think that what we're seeing, and like you said, it seems like things are starting to escalate more, maybe in a negative direction. Well, part of that is because for the first time, people are seeing what police officers were doing, have been doing for so many years in the past, and it's just now being brought to light. Whether it be social media, whether it be the news. Obviously, one of the first times we ever saw anything was Rodney King in LA when that incident happened.
Yeah.
That's almost one of the first ever televised incidents of a situation that was happening.
Yeah.
And me personally, I can't say for a fact because I wasn't a police officer at the time of Rodney King. But that was just the start of pulling off that Band-Aid. I think finally people thought, could this really happen? It was shocking to the eyes to see things were going on. But I remember being in the police department and going through training and talking about that, and in the police department saying that is excessive. You cannot treat people like this. And so there was all kind of training, and there's different things that are going on. It was Floyd, right? That had his George Floyd that recently was killed by an officer that had put his knee on his neck. I can tell you, and I've been asked this recently, as of even a couple months ago, somebody asked me, what is, and I don't know what they're expecting for me to say. But the whole Floyd thing, was that officer really guilty for doing that? And emphatically, when I first saw that video for the first time, I told my wife, I said, you know what? I would have gone to jail that day, because if I would have been just a civilian like I am right now, I would have gone over there and pushed that officer off there, because we were trained never, ever, ever touch the neck area, because the neck area you can is. With the arteries that go up your neck, you can stop somebody from breathing. Yeah. We were taught never to ever put your knee on somebody's neck. That was just a stay away. That was across the board. That was a universal thing. Yeah. And once you get somebody into custody, and once they get your hands in custody, game's over. Right. That is it. Yeah. You're done. Yeah. Doesn't matter if they're kicking, they're flailing, whatever. Once you get them in handcuffs, they ain't going anywhere.
Right.
So there's absolutely no reason to go beyond that. But do officers do that? Absolutely, because I believe that it goes personal. I believe that that's when we start seeing the true colors of who these people are come out. At the end of the day, we're there to if you're supposed to take them in custody for breaking the law, you take them into custody.
Yeah.
If they're doing something they're not supposed to, or they're threatening you or somebody else, then you stop the threat. But once that's done, it's done.
Right.
Anything else is excessive.
Well, how do you feel about people who you brought up the George Floyd situation?
Yeah.
And it seems as though the justification for that is that he was a criminal. And they bring up a laundry list of things, whether it was armed robberies or holding a gun to a lady's pregnant belly and things of that nature, because I hear what you're saying, and people hear that, and then they go, well, he was a criminal. So, how do you respond to that?
Okay. Yeah. If he was a criminal, he was a criminal. That's what our judicial system is supposed to be set up for. It is not my job, and it wasn't my job, nor was any of the police officer's job, to judge him at that moment for things that he has done in his past. Your job right then is to, number one, if he's done something that's against the law, is to take him into custody at that moment for that incident. And like I said, once you take him into custody, whatever he's done in his past, that is it. That's over with.
Right.
Now you've done your job as a police officer. You make sure he's safe.
Yeah.
You put him and you want him safe in there because he needs to be able to stand trial for anything that's on his books.
Yeah.
Now I will say this: if he is a criminal, he has a past of carrying a gun, I hope to know that information for my own safety.
Right.
And I want to make sure that I'm watching his hands, and I want to make sure that if I'm told he's He's been known to assault people. He's been assaulted. Well, I want to know if I'm taking him into custody, that I am safe because I want to get home to my family.
Yeah.
But once I take him into custody, and I have all these other people around me, once I take him into custody, that is it.
That's it.
It's not my job to judge him on the spot for whatever he did. That is the
Right.
judicial system. That's their job. That's the job of his peers that are going to judge him for all of that. My job is to keep the community safe right then at that moment. Once he's in custody, game over.
Oh, that's good. Do you think it matters how these stories are covered that affects our perspective, or do you think each situation speaks for itself no matter the media coverage? Because you have Ahmaud Arbery, you have Tamir Rice, you have all of these people who have really just become hashtags.
Yeah.
Breonna Taylor. Do you think there's like a media bend to it, or do you think it's just like, well, no, these situations speak for themselves? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I'll be honest with you, Xavier. I can't control what the media says,
Yeah.
or what they do. I think for police officers, I truly believe that it shouldn't matter what cameras are on you. If you're not doing the right thing, how are they going to record something? How are they going to record the wrong thing if you're not doing the wrong thing?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
are you going to, again, you can put all the cameras you want on me. I'm going to do the right thing. And I would rather see an innocent person go home to I'd rather see a guilty person go home to their family than for me to act, than to assault somebody that was, unjustly assaulted or killed by me. At the end of the day, it'll work itself out if you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah, there are some things. There are people I know for sure. There are people out there that are going to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
There are some people that are going to loot. They're going to destroy things. They're going to destroy their community, or they're going to go into other communities because they're looking for an excuse to do that. But I also understand that there are years and years, decades of unjust behavior that has happened that has helped add fuel to this fire that has been waiting to come out a long time. And so now, unfortunately, we are, we're all suffering in this together. But is it the media's fault? I can't say that it is,
Right.
because again, if you're doing the right thing, then what are they going to report on? There are thousands of officers out there today, right now as we speak, that are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And people are going to be recording. But they ain't reporting if you ain't got nothing to, if you've done nothing
right.
wrong, So,
Right.
If you do the wrong thing, just know that somebody's watching out now,
Yeah.
because the people are tired. The people are tired of being treated like crap. They're tired of being treated wrong. And at the end of the day, that the department is going to pay the price. And unfortunately, so are the other officers that are good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was Martin Luther King who, in one of his addresses, he said that looting and rioting is the outcry for the unheard.
Yeah.
They don't know how else to express themselves. It's kind of like a child throwing a tantrum, just trying to get your attention. They can't communicate it like they can't use their words. So this is the only way that I feel like I can get your attention.
Yeah.
Even if it's wrong, this is
Right.
just the reality of it, of the outcry. Do you think racial profiling plays a part in a lot of these instances or not?
Yeah, no, I absolutely. And I was blessed to have had good field training officers.
Yeah.
One of them was a guy. He was full-blooded Indian. He taught me so much. And I'll never forget when I was driving, I saw a young man. He was the same ethnicity to me, but he was dressed like a thug. I mean, he was a full-out gang member, and he was walking around weird hours at night. And I'll be honest with you, I was in training, and I wanted to stop him, see what was going on. And my field training officer said, "Why are you stopping him?" And I said, "Well, look at him. He doesn't look like he belongs here at this time of night, And he goes, "You're profiling." He goes, "Give me a justifiable reason why you're going to stop this young man."
Wow.
Are you telling me because of the way he's dressed? Because you're fixing to violate his civil rights if you do that. And I was like, I do not have the right to. And he goes, no, you better have a good justifiable reason. So I had good that made me open my eyes to the fact that you can't judge somebody by their cover. If they're not breaking the law, you better have a justifiable reason why you're fixing to violate this person's Fourth Amendment rights, which means you're about to take them into custody. You're about to, unjustly keep them from being free. And I'll never forget that, because he also is the same guy that told me whenever I got mad at somebody, and I got mad because they were talking down to me, and I was a police officer. How dare you talk to me like that? And he came up to me and said, never forget who you are. But he was a godly man. And he wasn't talking about just being a police officer. He was saying, never forget who you are. And he was basically saying, you're a son of God. You need to remember who you are, that this goes so much deeper than you wearing that badge. You need to learn how to treat people with respect.
Yeah.
So so again, when I say that I was blessed, I was one of the good ones. And then I became a field training officer. And so all these things that I had learned, I was able to pass on, which goes back to say that I think that some of the problems that we have is you have a lot of guys that were from the 70s and 80s that are training other officers, because I also got to witness some really, really bad training. And we're talking the old school stuff that is not acceptable. It shouldn't have been acceptable back when they were doing it,
right? But
it was probably overlooked more in the early police days. But I'm watching these people train the young men and women that I was in the police academy with, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, they're setting them up for failure. And so yeah, I think there's just so much to it, and a lot of it is training.
So did you get to basically some of those same lessons that your field officer training taught you? Did you get to then pass on, in the sense of, like, was there somebody that your trainee saw walking and was like, we need to stop them? And did you get to that same opportunity to, like, engage in a way to where it was like an eye-opening experience for him?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and it goes, I can't, in my top of my head, because there were so many, so many incidences that happened. But I will tell you that, and there's nothing in particular that comes to mind on something like that. But I remember specifically talking to people about that, and while we're talking to people, and I would ask them questions about, when is it justifiable to stop somebody? When is it justifiable to search somebody? When is it justifiable to put your hands on their body or in their pockets? So those are the kind of things that I took it serious, because I realized, you're about to. When I realized that, and for me, I don't know when I first became a police officer, I don't know what I expected. I really probably thought that I'm the popo. I can stop whoever the heck I want to. That's who I am. But again, I had good training, and people were saying, you better think about this, because you're about to, and it's different when somebody puts it in terms of, you're about to take somebody's constitutional rights away. And that had a weight to me. It's like, I took an oath to protect that right. Yeah. And that actually had a lot of weight when it's like, you can't treat people like that. No, it was like, you're about to take somebody's rights away. Are you going to be ready to stand before a judge and tell them the legal justification for why you did that? That was a lot of weight to that. So I really paid attention to every aspect. And I realized that the law it could be my friend. Yeah. And, if you were breaking these laws, this is now I have justification to find out why you're breaking these laws, because the law was set up for me to be able to do that. But yeah, there's a lot. No,
that is a lot. And it's great to have this perspective, right? Because, as a civilian, I've only been a civilian.
Yeah.
But there's been many a times, unfortunately, where I feel as though that I was profiled against, but, nowadays everything is racial profiling, so it kind of watered down my experiences.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, it's not, everybody's been, search, or what were you doing? What were you wearing? And it's like, what does that matter?
Almost like and you're saying that your experience is almost like somebody crowned wolf.
Yes.
Like it can't be
Right.
anymore because everybody's, if you're a black man and you're you're being racial profiled and it's no longer has weight to it
Exactly.
anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's awesome hearing your perspective. You being law enforcement, the weight of that, because at any given moment, you can potentially not come home to your family.
Yeah.
Right? So what is the biblical perspective of you being law enforcement? Like, how did you take you being a son of God and you walking in that? How did you take that to the field and being law enforcement? Like, what was that like? Especially whenever you saw things that were going wrong with the brothers that you lock arms with. Like,
Yeah.
How was that?
I will say this. Number one, I prayed every day before, and I know there were other people praying for me. I know my wife was praying for me. I will never forget when I was going through the academy, there was an officer who had just graduated the class before me, and he said, I really don't believe that a Christian can go to heaven, or that a police officer can go to heaven. And here's the crazy thing is he used to actually be a security guard for Pastor Joel.
Really?
The guy who said this, yeah. And he said because he thinks that the temptations of being a police officer and all the things that you do and all the things you say were just overwhelming, that, you there's just no way you could do that. And I completely beg to differ on that. And I was fortunate. I was able to, and I remember, again, we had a good teacher in the academy that taught us that, when you're in the police department, you're a police officer, but when you go home, you need to go home. You need to leave your police stuff at work. It's the only way you're going to be able to make it for your family, because it's going to be very hard on your family. But I will say that I learned, I've always, and it became more so prevalent towards the end of my career. It's a really hard question.
Yeah.
I knew that I had the authority, because the government and the state of Texas gave me the authority that they gave me. I really, really tried to stick to all the things that I knew growing up, that what I knew about God, and I feared God.
Yeah.
That was probably the number one thing, is that I didn't want to upset him. But as I grew throughout my life, and when God started actually changing me a lot, was when I started realizing that the people that I was arresting were children of God. Changed my outlook completely of how I did law enforcement. Realized a lot of these men that I was arresting in interrogations were coming from broken homes. During my interrogation, what I found, and one of the things I love so much in hostage negotiations, was that a lot of these young men had not only not felt the love of a father, they haven't felt the love of the father. And so during my interrogations, I was honest with them, and I would tell them from the get-go, I am not going to lie to you. That's not what my goal is here. My goal is to be, maybe for the first time in your life, somebody's going to be 100% honest with you. But I would like that back. I'd like that respect back in return. I'm going to respect you during this conversation. But I just want to know why you did what you did. But I also want you to understand that what you did doesn't make you the person that was. You may have stolen something. You may have hurt something, but that doesn't define you. But what's going to define you now is how you and I are going to work through this process together. And I'm going to walk through you every bit of the way. I'm going to go to court for you. And I am going to make sure that this court knows that you recognize that you made a mistake, that you are sorry for the mistake you made, and that, you can be saved, and that you're not somebody they can just throw away. And so I would actually walk through that. And I can't tell you how many minutes. And the thing is, and I was sincere when I would, and when I see them finally bow their head in defeat, I'd put my hand on them and just say, hey, listen, I understand, it's okay. And they'd start crying. And I, not that I'm proud of it, because I almost don't even like to share it, but it became one of these things that people were like, let Hudson interrogate him because he'll get him to cry. And it was not about the crying, but it was about, for the first time, somebody's treating me with respect.
Yeah.
And I did. I went to court with them, and I'd go to court and I'd stand by their side, and hopefully the court would recognize that, they're ready to move on and to admit their mistakes and not do it again. But I truly believe that even as a law enforcement officer, you can show somebody the love of Jesus in every aspect of what you do. From your first contact, there's no reason why you can't show somebody the love of Jesus. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a badge or not. We're dealing with human beings here. We're dealing with people that were created in God's image. He knew the numbers of hairs on their head as much as he knew the number of hairs on my head. Absolutely no different, other than the government gave me the authority to protect the laws that keep us civil. Anything outside of that is, if you're taking that away from somebody, then you're in the wrong.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. But I think, just to kind of draw this to a close, and we talked about just the not even a slippery slope. We're there already. How do we change things for the better? Like, what does that look like? What does that even, is it better training? Is it, because you have all of these different things that are floating around, defund the police. That's, the hot topic and things. What is the actual, obviously we know the answer, Jesus, but practically, what does this look like? What does change look like?
I wanted to add real quick, because I was going to ask that question earlier, because I knew, in the time because when me and you became friends, you were still in the police force.
Yeah.
I think he was out by the time y'all did, correct? I'm not sure.
Yes, he was already out.
And I knew you were a trainer and stuff, but do you think, in that, added to that, recently I've been seeing some articles about spending more time on the mental aspect of being a police officer, and not just training them mentally, but learning who they are mentally before we ever give them a gun, possibly make a difference. And I just wanted your thought on that.
I think that mental health is completely different than the racial issue. I think the racial issue is something in its entirety that we have as a society have struggled with even longer than we've dealt with mental health. I think mental health is almost kind of new to the game because we're seeing, for the first time, we're starting to see, oh wait, this person may have had some mental issues, and how we deal with them. Yes, that needs to be handled in a specific way. We have officers that are kind of trained to deal with them. Obviously, I was really trained in it, in actually dealing with the mentally challenged or stuff was probably my favorite part because I learned how to recognize. There's a moment when you're talking to somebody who's mentally ill, whether it be through negotiations or whatever. I loved to watch the brain work. I loved during a conversation, and I would see a small window of, it's almost like seeing, you have a spinning thing, and all of a sudden there's a small window that opens up, and now I'm able to get inside. And I liked to find that brief moment where all of a sudden I've made that connection, and now all of a sudden I can communicate with this person. This person has grabbed on to what I'm saying, and now we're going for a ride together, and we're going to work through this problem together. That happened a lot whenever I was dealing with like the jumper off the freeways and stuff like this, and all of a sudden they recognize that what you're saying is the truth, and I need to hold on to what you're saying because you have my interest at heart. So I think that's a whole, yes, there definitely needs to be more of that where officers are slower to respond to somebody who's mentally ill in a fashion that they're criminals. And sometimes that, unfortunately, it takes patience. And I know police officers don't always have the resources available to let an officer sit out there for an hour to talk to somebody. But you know what? So be it. So be it. If it takes an hour and it saves your department millions of dollars on a lawsuit, and more importantly, saves that person's life, that you just took because you weren't patient enough to get to know them and to build that rapport, then shame on you for not doing it. When it comes to race, man, I'll tell you, if I had the answer, I wouldn't be sitting with you guys in this room right now. We'd be sitting at Disney, enjoying some stuff, because the amount of books that I would sell and the conferences and stuff that I would hold at Disney, telling them how to fix this problem. And the easy answer for me, Xavier, is to say that God, because we all know that's the easy answer, because God is the fixer for everything. He is the creator of the universe, and He can fix all things. But I think that it's going to have to be police departments doing a better job at bringing officers. You're going to have to do a better job at, when you first bring officers in, you need to get rid of the old, scabby, crusty ass officers that are in there training. You can bleep that if you want to. That are in there because they piss me off, because they are actually the ones that are laying the foundation for these officers to wreck their careers and to wreck somebody else's life. You've got to get rid of that old cynical police officer that thinks it's us against them. And instead of going to the mentality that it's us against them, why not have the mentality that, you know what, we're all in this together and we can work through this whole process. It should be a song. I know you're singing it in your head. We're all in this. No.
Yes,
but there needs to be a different mentality, and stop that us. It's us and them. Because you have, as a police officer, you have such a privilege. It is such a privilege to be able to stand up and protect somebody. They've called you because you have a special talent, and the fact that you're willing to give your life for this person. Yeah. Why would you not want to do everything you possibly can to stand up and protect this person, to protect their rights so that they can go home to their family? They have loved ones who love them just as much as you want to get home to your family. You know what? This person who screwed up, they want to get home to their family too. Sometimes it just needs, kind of like when your heart goes into AFib, sometimes you just need a shock real quick to get it back on track. Sometimes that's what it takes for a young person that is doing the wrong thing. They just need to be reminded. They just need that quick shock, but it doesn't mean you need to take their life. I think it comes with better training. I think there needs to be, there definitely needs to be, you need to be open. There needs to be transparency within the department. Release your numbers. Let people know these are the number of arrests you made. These are the number, and make sure that, and watch each officer individually to find out what is it they're doing. How many people are they arresting? Other people that they're arresting, how many of them are black people that they're arresting? How many complaints are they doing? If you have complaints, then you need to go through some. I mean, we could go on and on. But there was a chief of police before he died. He actually was hoping that I would be the next chief of police at the department I was at. God had other plans. Yeah. God called me into ministry. But it's going to take more than one department, but it's going to take every department to realize that there is an issue, but there's ways of fixing it. You get rid of the bad seeds. Yeah. Get rid of them. Yeah. They don't need that privilege.
Oh, that's good. This is a great start of conversation. I know we're going to have you back on talking about more specific things, but I think this perspective, this overarching perspective for us and for our audience is really good. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. And thank you for the past 4 weeks. Amazing. We definitely got to get you back soon. But thank you for taking the time to just let us into who Eric Hudson is, whether it's you personally, your family, your heart for adoption, Sophia, and obviously your career in law enforcement. So
it brought a lot back. I mean, my hands are sweating talking about the police stuff, because it's actually been a minute since I've talked about some of it, and actually I feel some of it come back. Yeah. So it's good for me too.
I was about to say, how does that feel?
It was good for me too. Okay. It's always good for me to talk about it, because even though I didn't have the PTSD that a lot of officers had, even though my partner was killed and all that kind of stuff, there's so many things that happened in my career. Both good and bad, right? But it brings it back. It starts to bring it back, and there's a little bit of anxiety that kind of sets in. And but you know what? At the end of the day, There are good officers out there, just like any career field.
Right.
Just like we have good pastors, we have a couple bad ones.
Yeah, we got some.
There's some,
We
and it doesn't matter
some.
what field you're at in range. I'm sure there's good tractor operators, and there's bad ones. But it's love the people that deserve love, and love everybody. But just don't take it out on there's good officers out there that really do want to help. You're doing the right thing. You ain't got to worry about it.
Yeah. Amen. Well, this has been Culture on Tap. Thank you for tapping in with us. We will see you guys next week. See ya. Culture on Tap is sponsored by Houston Radio Platinum, playing the best classic hits. You can download the Houston Radio Platinum app. It's in your app store, or just ask Alexa to play Houston Radio Platinum.